It was a quiet summer night in Oak Park when the sound of sirens broke the peace near 4th Avenue, flashing red and blue across the same corners that raised both the killers and the victims. People stood on porches whispering, saying it was another shooting, but this one hit different because it was family turning on family. The same hood that once screamed Oak Park Bloods now spoke in two voices, both dripping with pride and pain. They used to move as one, but the streets had split them in half. To understand how it got this bad, you gotta go back to where it all began. Oak Park sits right in the heart of Sacramento, one of the city's oldest neighborhoods, once known for clean lawns, jazz clubs, and black pride. By the mid-80s, things had started to change when the factories shut down, money disappeared, and crack cocaine hit the streets like a storm that never left. What used to be a tight working class community turned into a battlefield where young men learned survival faster than they learned school. Out of that chaos came the Oak Park Bloods, born not just from gang culture, but from a sense of loyalty to the only thing they still had left, their block. The Oak Park Bloods built a name for themselves through the late 80s and 90s, fighting off rival sets and claiming the streets from 4th Avenue to Stockton Boulevard. Their biggest enemies were the Crips around Fruit Ridge and Meadowview, especially the G Parkway mob, who shared a deep history of violence with Oak Park. Gunshots at night became the soundtrack of survival, and funerals became more common than graduations. Yet for every death, new soldiers stepped up, holding tight to that red flag, carrying the name Oak Park like a badge of honor. As years rolled by, the Bloods inside Oak Park began forming smaller branches, each crew holding their own flavor but tied to the same roots. The 4th Avenue Bloods, better known as FAB, claimed their side with pride, while the Zilla crew rose up around 39th Street. Each clique had its own leadership, its own young hitters, but together they moved under the same flag. By the early 2000s, a new generation started shaping the identity of the hood in a different way. Music began to blend with the streets, and young men who once dreamed of corner fame started dreaming about studio sessions. They used rap to tell the story of what Oak Park really looked like beyond the news headlines. The line between gangster and artist started to blur, and that mix of street pride and ambition would soon produce a voice that changed the city. In the early 2010, a skinny kid from the block named Timothy Patterson began turning those same stories into songs. He called himself Mozzy, and at first, it was just another nickname in a city full of rappers. But his voice carried the pain and detail of someone who had lived every line he wrote. He recorded in makeshift studios around Oak Park, rapping about shootouts, hunger, lost friends, and the pride of being from a neighborhood most outsiders feared. His flow felt raw and unfiltered, but what made him stand out was the honesty in his words. Mozzy wasn't the first rapper from Sacramento, but he was the first to make the world pay attention to the city's reality. Every lyric came from streets he could still walk without hiding his face. The older heads respected him because he stayed grounded, and the younger ones followed him because he proved you could turn struggle into something bigger. His come up wasn't overnight. He worked the local circuit, dropping tapes like Bladada and Yellow Tape activities, and slowly became the name everyone mentioned when they talked about Sacramento rap. By the time his name started catching attention outside the city, the whole Oak Park stood behind him. The Mozzy movement became more than music. It became a flag that every Oak Park Blood, from the OGs to the young shooters, could rally around. Mozzy gave the hood something it hadn't felt in years, a reason to be proud again. His videos showed the same cracked sidewalks, corner stores, and alleyways that news cameras used to call dangerous, but this time they looked like home. Mozzy made Oak Park visible to the world, and for a moment, unity felt real again. His rise gave people hope that maybe, just maybe, the streets could turn a story of pain into something powerful. But behind that success, the same streets that built him were watching closely, and not everyone in the neighborhood would celebrate his rise forever. By the time 2014 rolled around, a younger crowd from Oak Park started making noise in the streets and online. They called themselves Shootergang, a crew of wild and talented young rappers who came up watching Mozzy's rise. Names like Shootergang Coney, Shootergang JoJo, Shootergang DeRay, and Shootergang VJ started buzzing all through Sacramento. They were teenagers with cameras, chains, and ambition, trying to make a name like the big homie from their block. Every verse they dropped carried that same gritty Sacramento energy that Mozzy made famous across the state. Shootergang wasn't just about rap. They lived in the same trenches they rapped about, coming from families tied to the Oak Park Bloods for decades. Their music had that raw street truth, the kind that hit different if you really grew up there. Coney especially stood out early because his lyrics mixed pain, loyalty, and pride in ways that caught people's attention. He talked about what it meant to survive in a hood where your last mistake could be your last moment. Mozzy saw their hunger and opened his arms to them, seeing a reflection of himself before the fame. He took Shootergang on tours, put them in his music videos, and even gave them Mozzy chains to wear. To the world, it looked like Oak Park had found unity again. You had OGs like Mozzy running the game, and the young guns like Coney keeping the energy alive in the streets. For once, old heads and new heads were side by side, repping the same colors and screaming the same hood in every song. Their tracks told stories about the block with pride, shouting out 4th Avenue, Zilla, and Oak Park like they were all one big family. Sacramento felt that energy, and people started believing Oak Park was stronger than ever. But in every hood story, peace never lasts long. Behind all the brotherhood and public unity, quiet tension was growing. Ego, street codes, and small misunderstandings started building under the surface. Nobody saw it clearly yet, but that pride that united them was slowly turning into something darker. By late 2018, the mood in Oak Park started to shift again. What began as love and loyalty began turning into whispers that carried through the block. The first crack came when talk spread that an OG named Gangster Jeff had paperwork on his name. People started calling him a snitch, saying he cooperated with law enforcement years back on a case that put some folks behind bars. For the young bloods, that kind of accusation wasn't light. In their world, once your name came up in that way, it could stain everyone around you. Shootergang DeRay was one of the loudest voices questioning the situation. He posted videos online saying Oak Park didn't stand with rats and that the truth would come out soon. That didn't sit right with Mozzy because Jeff was someone he respected from his early days. Instead of cutting Jeff off, Mozzy kept showing him love, calling him a solid OG who helped raise him in the streets. The decision split the neighborhood into sides almost overnight. Some said Mozzy was staying loyal to his elders. Others said he was protecting someone who violated the code. Then the beef spread beyond Oak Park. Mozzy's longtime rival, Lavish D, also known as CML, caught wind of the whole situation. He mocked it in his diss track, Where's Waldo 2, accusing Mozzy of hiding snitches in his crew. That song lit a fire under Sacramento, putting Mozzy and Shootergang's internal drama out for everyone to see. The streets fed off the gossip, and fans started picking sides based on rumors they barely understood. Inside Oak Park, the tension grew heavier with each passing month. Mozzy's camp began viewing Shootergang as young hotheads who didn't know how to respect their elders. Meanwhile, Shootergang saw Mozzy's loyalty to Gangster Jeff as betrayal to the street code they grew up believing in. What was once friendly competition between brothers now turned into quiet resentment. It wasn't open war yet, but the trust was cracked for good. Respect was turning into caution, and the family bond that held Oak Park together started to fade. In late 2019, everything that had been boiling under the surface finally spilled over. What started as a normal night out for Oak Park's rappers turned into the breaking point. Shootergang Coney was hanging with a few Oak Park affiliates that night, including Mozzy's cousin E. Mozzy. The two exchanged words that quickly got heated. People said it was over pride, some said it was about money, others said it was deeper than both. Whatever it was, it went bad fast. Coney ended up getting jumped by several men tied to Mozzy's circle, and in that scuffle, his chain got snatched. It wasn't just any chain, it was the Mozzy chain he got back when everything still felt like family. That chain had represented loyalty and unity in Oak Park, a symbol that you were part of something bigger than yourself. Having it taken in your own neighborhood wasn't just robbery, it was humiliation. Word spread quick. Videos and rumors hit social media within hours, and the hood lit up with speculation. People said Uzi Marcus from the Zilla clique stood right there and didn't do a thing to help. Some even claimed he knew it was going to happen before it did. Maserati Rick, an OG with deep roots in Oak Park, didn't keep quiet about it. He went online and called out Uzi directly, saying he froze up and let Coney get done dirty. Rick made it clear that real homies don't let something like that slide, especially not in their own section. That chain snatching changed everything overnight. Coney cut all ties with Mozzy's side and made it known he wasn't rocking with them anymore. He and his Shootergang brothers stopped wearing anything connected to Mozzy. They started doing their own shows, recording separate videos, and making it clear that the bond was broken for good. People around the city started calling it a civil war inside Oak Park. The phrase "Old Park turned upside down" started getting thrown around because it felt like the entire neighborhood had split down the middle. You either rode with Mozzy or you rode with Shootergang. There was no middle ground anymore. Some tried staying neutral, but even that came with pressure because loyalty meant everything in that part of Sacramento. What once looked like brotherhood now looked like betrayal. The same people who once celebrated together were now plotting on each other quietly. By the end of that year, everyone knew it wasn't just about rap anymore. It had turned into something personal, and Oak Park would never look the same again. Not long after the chain situation, Oak Park was hit with something deeper than disrespect. In late 2019, Shootergang DeRay was killed, and that loss hit like a bullet through the heart of the whole hood. DeRay was young, loyal, and always kept his circle tight. He had been one of the loudest voices back in Shootergang after the split, defending their name every time people tried to play them. When he died, the pain ran through Oak Park like a wave nobody saw coming. People filled the block that night, candles burning under streetlights and faces shining with tears. Everyone felt the shift in the air because DeRay wasn't just another street rapper. He was a voice for the younger side of Oak Park. A kid who made it sound like the hood still had fight left in it. His death was more than tragic. It was symbolic. The unity that once tied Oak Park together had already been cracked, but DeRay's passing made it clear that there was no fixing it. Shootergang noticed something that turned pain into anger. Mozzy didn't show up to the funeral. Some said he had industry business, others said he wanted to avoid drama, but for many, that absence looked like a sign of disrespect. People started whispering that Mozzy didn't care about the same streets he used to claim. It hurt worse because not long before, they had all stood shoulder to shoulder at events that celebrated Oak Park as one. Filthy Rich, a Bay Area rapper who already had issues with Mozzy, decided to make it public. He dropped Troublesome 59, throwing direct shots at Mozzy for not attending DeRay's funeral. The song spread like wildfire through Sacramento, and it painted Mozzy as a man who forgot where he came from. The damage was done. The split that started quietly had now become a full-blown street conversation. Everybody had an opinion, and every line in the song turned into fuel for the fire. The love was gone, the brotherhood was gone, and Oak Park had become a battlefield of pride and betrayal. By summer 2020, the city felt cursed. June brought another loss, and this one made the streets turn cold for real. K-Squeeze, whose real name was Kejuan Winston, got shot and killed while riding in a car on the freeway. He was the younger brother of Bust Down Bandy, a rapper connected to Mozzy's camp. The two were close, But everyone in the hood knew K-Squeeze had started drifting toward Shootergang before his death. People said he was tired of the politics and wanted to build his own name. When the news broke that K-Squeeze was gone, Oak Park froze. The car he was in got sprayed with bullets, and somehow, Bandy walked away without a scratch. That one detail lit up every conversation in Sacramento. Some said it was random, others said it was a setup. The word backdoor started floating around again. In the streets, that word means betrayal from the people closest to you, and it's one of the ugliest ways to die. At the funeral, things got even darker. Instead of peace, it turned chaotic. Bandy was attacked by other Oak Park members, beaten during the service meant to honor his own brother. The disrespect sent chills through everyone who heard about it. The whispers got louder, claiming that K-Squeeze might have been killed by someone from his own side. Nobody had proof, but in Oak Park, rumors carried more weight than facts. People started saying K-Squeeze had gotten caught up in something bigger than music. Some said he was connected to the earlier killing of Lil Jody from Del Paso Heights, and that maybe his death was a retaliation for that. Others said he was plotting to rob someone from Oak Park and got punished for crossing a line. None of it was confirmed, but the streets believed what they wanted to believe. What made it hurt more was who K-Squeeze was. He was young, funny, and respected. He still had both sides of Oak Park showing him love before his death. Afterward, that love turned into rage. His death erased the last bridge between the two camps. Whatever small chance of peace existed burned away with those freeway gunshots. From that moment, people in Oak Park stopped seeing each other as brothers. It became blood for blood. By the time 2021 came around, Oak Park was drowning in grief and paranoia. Every funeral felt like a meeting place for enemies pretending to mourn. That September, another name got added to the list when Red Paint Mava was killed. His real name was Enimava Mabinton, and he had been around the hood for years. Mava was known as a respected figure in Oak Park, connected to multiple cliques, including Shootergang. He had a strong personality, the type that made people either love him or hate him. That night, he was at a party on Fruit Ridge Road, deep inside Fruit Ridge Vista, Blood's territory. When shots rang out, Mava was hit and died on the spot. Another man got wounded, and the whole thing was blamed on Fruit Ridge rivals at first. The story seemed simple. Fruit Ridge and Oak Park had been enemies for decades, and shootings between them were nothing new. But as the days went by, the story started changing. People started saying it didn't make sense for Fruit Ridge to target Mava that night. Rumors floated that someone from Oak Park had set him up. They said Mava had been acting reckless, pressing people in his own hood and making enemies out of friends. Some even claimed that he was lured to that party by someone he trusted. The whispers turned into full conversations, and soon everyone believed Mava had been backdoored. His death shook people, not because of who killed him, but because of what it proved. Nobody in Oak Park could be trusted anymore. Friends didn't ride together the same way, and every move was watched. The word backdoor became part of everyday talk. It wasn't just an accusation now, it was a warning. The streets went quiet after Mava's killing. No arrests were made, no names were confirmed, and no justice followed. It felt like another secret buried under candlelight vigils and social media tributes. People stopped believing in loyalty altogether. Mothers stopped letting their sons hang out late because too many funerals had come from the same corners. By the end of that year, even family members didn't fully trust one another. Oak Park wasn't one hood anymore. It was pieces of what used to be a family, broken by pride, jealousy, and revenge that never seemed to end. By 2021, the streets had turned digital, and Oak Park's war was living online for everyone to watch. The chains that once symbolized unity now became trophies of humiliation. Shootergang started posting photos on Instagram, flashing stolen Mozzy chains, tagging their rivals with laughing emojis and captions meant to sting. It wasn't just street talk anymore. The whole city could see the disrespect with a swipe. The internet turned into another battlefield where words hit just as hard as bullets. Mozzy's camp didn't sit quiet. Instead of hiding the loss, they flipped it into a show. On stage, Mozzy began what fans called the Greasy Neck Tour. During his performances, he proudly held up Shootergang Coney's stolen chain, letting fans and even strangers wear it for pictures. Videos flooded social media, showing Mozzy laughing while the crowd cheered. To some, it looked like entertainment. To others, it was war turned into performance art. Every repost and every meme made the divide feel deeper. The fans took sides immediately. Sacramento's online scene exploded with arguments, lives, and diss posts. Every neighborhood in the city seemed to pick a team, either Mozzy's or Shootergangs. Comment sections turned into gang territories of their own, filled with threats and insults. The old rule of keeping the streets quiet was gone. Now everyone talked too much, and everyone was watching. Each stolen chain became more than jewelry. It was a statement. It was proof of who had power and who got caught slipping. Both sides used those images to remind the world that no one was untouchable. By the end of the year, the internet wasn't just part of the beef. It had become the center of it. The line between rap, street life, and digital clout disappeared completely. Oak Park's civil war had gone viral. By 2022, the words and songs started sounding more like coded threats than lyrics. Mozzy decided to break his silence with a track called Tell the Truth, featuring Shorty Shorty. The beat was catchy, but every bar carried poison for those who knew the story. He called out people pretending to be from Oak Park, saying they were really from Elk Grove, a calmer suburb outside Sacramento. For those in the know, that was a direct shot at Shootergang. He mocked their toughness, hinted they weren't built for the trenches, and let his rivals know he was still the voice of the block. Fans broke down every lyric like detectives, connecting dots and spreading the meaning online. Tell the Truth turned into a street anthem for Mozzy's side. His followers said he reclaimed his crown with that record. But on the other side, Shootergang took it as pure disrespect. It didn't take long before Coney fired back. 2 months later, Shootergang Coney dropped Free Smoke 2, and Sacramento hadn't seen a diss track that raw in years. The music video said everything without needing explanation. Chains labeled Mozzy sat in a glass case while rats crawled across them, turning symbolism into insult. Every line was a direct punch, accusing Mozzy of hiding snitches, hating on Maserati Rick, and letting his people get humiliated in the streets. Coney even mentioned real names like Who's Mozzy, calling out criminal cases and personal scandals. The streets went wild because nothing was hidden anymore. Free Smoke 2 felt less like a song and more like a public declaration of war. People listened to it not just for entertainment, but as if it carried real street orders. Every word was decoded like prophecy, every visual analyzed for meaning. The beef wasn't music anymore. It was warfare set to rhythm, with lyrics standing in for bullets. The songs kept the tension alive, feeding the city's obsession with who would strike next. Just when things were reaching their loudest point, everything went quiet. Weeks after Coney dropped Free Smoke 2, Mozzy turned himself in on a federal firearm charge. The arrest came from a 2021 case where he got caught in Los Angeles with a gun while riding with an associate linked to his rivals. The timing felt unreal. Sacramento was buzzing over the diss tracks, and suddenly Mozzy's voice was gone. He began serving a 1-year sentence in federal prison, leaving his camp without its leader. Some people thought his time away would finally cool things down. Others said silence doesn't mean peace, only planning. Inside Sacramento County Jail, smaller fights broke out between inmates loyal to Mozzy and those standing with Shootergang. Even behind bars, the Oak Park divide stayed alive. Outside, social media still stirred things up. Old clips and edited videos of the Greasy Neck Tour kept circulating. Shootergang fans celebrated every post about Mozzy's sentencing, calling it karma. His people fired back online, promising things would change when he got home. The streets might have been quiet for a moment, but everyone could feel the tension waiting to explode again. By late 2023, the feud had stretched Far beyond Sacramento, on November 1st, news broke that Shootergang VJ, whose real name was Vishon Johnson, had been shot to death in Texas. He had moved to Porter, a small city near Houston, hoping to escape the tension and start fresh. But the past doesn't stay buried in gang politics. That night, VJ was ambushed in his own driveway. Witnesses said the hit looked professional, carried out by people who knew what they were doing. The story spread fast. People couldn't believe that Oak Park's war had reached another state. Shootergang members mourned online, posting tributes and vowing revenge, while whispers began circulating through Sacramento. Word on the street was that VJ didn't just get found by accident. People said Oak Park had sent shooters after him, even hundreds of miles away. Months later, the whispers turned into evidence. 2 suspects were arrested for the murder, Nishad Scruggs and Trayvon Oates. Both were confirmed Oak Park Bloods connected to Mozzy's side. Scruggs was arrested in Sacramento and extradited to Texas, while Oates was already locked up in the Sacramento County Jail on a separate murder charge. Those arrests confirmed what many had already believed, that the feud had turned into full-scale retaliation. The Texas authorities described it as a targeted killing. For Sacramento, it was proof that the war no longer had borders. Even outside the city, the energy followed them. Shootergang supporters flooded social media with grief, claiming the system would never bring justice. Mozzy's camp stayed silent, but the message was clear. VJ's death marked the point of no return. What started as a neighborhood rivalry over loyalty and respect had turned into a trans-state vendetta. Oak Park's Bloods weren't just fighting each other anymore. They were hunting each other down wherever the trail led. The Sacramento feud that once played out in songs and posts had turned into something far deadlier. By 2024, the smoke had settled, but the damage was permanent. Oak Park wasn't the same place anymore. Families who used to share cookouts now crossed the street to avoid each other. The murals, the candles, and the RIP shirts told a story of what pride and pain had done. Mozzy came home from prison focused on music, trying to rebuild his career. He stayed quiet about the feud, but his silence said enough. Shootergang Coney kept dropping music too, carrying the weight of lost friends in the name of a broken neighborhood. Police kept watching closely, hinting at future indictments and RICO cases. The tension still lived under the surface, even if the shooting slowed down. Old heads tried talking peace, but the young ones had seen too much to believe in it. Oak Park was divided, but the world kept listening to their music, learning their story one verse at a time. The tragedy of Mozzy and Shootergang wasn't just about rap or street politics. It was about brotherhood gone wrong. 2 sides born from the same block now carried scars that could never fade. Sacramento will always remember how unity turned into revenge, how pride buried the love, and how 2 kings from the same hood ended up on opposite sides of history.